Hey guys, it's Payne. I'm really excited to introduce a brand new show to Bet the Board that combines sports and alternative investing, the very first of its kind. Sports betting and collectibles converging is inevitable. Let me tell you why. Sports cards and memorabilia are another way to get money into the market and do it without limit restrictions or the substantial hold you're accustomed to with sports betting. Whether you collected cards as a kid and are looking to get back into the hobby, this podcast is for you. If you've been collecting cards for years, this podcast will make you think and operate more efficiently. Are you in real estate? The parallels to investing in sports cards and memorabilia are uncanny. You're on Wall Street. Well, listen close. The best sports cards have outperformed the S&P 500 by 6x since 2013. And during the 2008 market crash, sports cards held up better than the S&P 500. Bet the Board, in conjunction with PWCC, presents CardBoard Chat, an entertaining, sophisticated, and informative podcast that combines sports, analytics, betting, cards, and memorabilia. Without further ado, this is CardBoard Chat with Jesse Craig, a leading figure in the collectible space, and me, Payne. One thing that's important to us is you, the listener. And without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So I know we've talked 4, 5, 6-figure cards every single episode. And sometimes that can be a little tone deaf when all markets, not just cards and collectibles, are a little bit down right now. So I think it's important to discuss how we handle some of those market shifts and the advice that we might have for both collectors and investors. My good man, Jesse Craig.
Yeah, look, it is important. There's cards for everybody in the space. That's what's so great about it, right? So, and I do want to be clear, this timing of the market right now, you can look at it and say, oh yeah, cards are down. Well, specific cards are down. I actually don't. The market as a whole, there's sectors that are not down at all. If you look at more of the vintage market, it's actually kind of just flatlined. It hasn't really gone down a whole lot the last 3 or 4 months when, everyone's screaming from the mountaintops that, everything's crashing and the sky's falling. Well, if you look at our indices that are actually on our website under our research tab, we have the PWCC 100, 500, and 2500 index. And those are only cards pre-2000. So these are all retired players or, players that have passed away. And it compares how those cards have performed against the, S&P 500, and you can kind of do a deep dive in there. But there's cards for everybody. And if you look at some of these, more vintage cards that are more stable, that are less volatile, you can find some in lower price points that are really, really enjoyable. You don't have to go out and buy the PSA 10s or the Beckett 9.5s. One of the examples I used was, I'd say it was about 1.5 years ago, I had a client asking me for the next big thing. And I said, I really like Rickey Henderson 9s. So PSA 9s of 1980 Topps Rickey Henderson rookies. 10s were going for about $25,000 at the time, and PSA 9s were only about $400. And there's only 25 10s or so for Rickey Henderson rookies. And there's a slew of 9s. So he went and he bought up quantity of the 9s. Sure enough, a year later, those 9s are worth about $1,800 a piece at one point. So I just want to make sure that when people are listening to this, they don't think, just because we talk about big flashy cards and, the bright shiny lights, that is all that there is in this space. There's really cool cards that are $50, $100. I've got cards in my collection that are under $100. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody in here. You just got to find what you're attracted to. That's really it.
There's no doubt about that. And I think everyone has their own little personal touch. And the approach that I've at least taken is twofold. And I think we both very much ascribe to the theory of selling when others get a little bit greedy and buying when others are fearful. And I certainly think we're in the latter stage of that.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you have a long-term vision in this market. And I believe maybe trimming the fat and not splashing all over the place is a good approach as well. Be a little more calculated, tidy up what you're doing, and just be very intentional and gravitate towards some of the rare stuff, and be willing to get the blue chip and the rare assets that aren't usually available but are now because of some panic. And some of those cards are rarely available or may never pop again. So personally, I like to keep my volume down a little bit and just kind of go after on some of those, focused grail pieces when they become available on the downswing. And that mindset even comes with the acknowledgement, Jesse, that we might not be at the floor, right? We might actually see another 8, 10, 15% dip from here. But the one thing about some of these rare assets that don't sell often is you can buy now, and even if the market dips 15%, those losses aren't realized because there isn't going to be another comp in the next 4, 6, 12 months.
Right.
And so that's an interesting theory there where, your card doesn't necessarily have to take a hit and have a new comp. So if you were to want to sell that isn't out there. So I just think this was a great conversation on maybe how to navigate through some of the tough times in this market. And there's different strokes for different folks. And I can tell you one card that soared. You won last week, by the way. Way to get off the schneid. You won 2-1.
Thank God.
You were actually on one of the cards. People are going to clamor and say, hey, no one deserves a win there. But you were the toughest Smurf in the exquisite foursome battle. You were at 9,300. I was at 8,800. The thing sold for nearly 31K. Neither of us were on the same planet, but I think that goes to show you that even in this market where everyone's yelling downswing, there are some pieces, one of ones, that it only takes two guys, and those are sought after, and they only pop up once or twice. And even in this market, it's time to go get stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. And we still have record sales in this market every single week, right? It's true rarity will win the day all the time. And so it just, when you're buying, it's just a matter of how long you want to hold it. What segment you're in. All these calculations need to be made for, that specific individual. And, with that foursomes card, for example, we said it, right? It takes two guys to want to go after that card. And sure enough, we got that, and it went for a record number.
That's what it was. Two guys just going at it.
Oh, I'm just making an assumption. It could have been 10. I didn't do research on it, but yeah, that's all it takes.
Yep. You mentioned timing, and I think this is a really good time to gravitate towards our next segment.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's time, folks. That's right. We're going to discuss undervalued and overvalued cards, or maybe even some memorabilia assets, potentially some players. Is it time to buy, sell, or hold on to these assets or players? We'll give you some opinions and back it up.
So we're talking about some of the most undervalued assets in this market, and we just discussed this, right? Picking your spots, finding some rare items that have some long-term upside in down markets. And there's one that you would like to talk to us about. It's in the basketball sector. It's the 2017 Flawless Donovan Mitchell rookie patch auto.
Yeah, this one's a little bit out there for me, a little bit different, but I really like this card because of who Donovan Mitchell is, because it is a rookie. It's a game use patch. I mean, you got a guy that just went from Utah to Cleveland. Cleveland's 8-1. I mean, they're playing unbelievable team basketball. Donovan Mitchell's being extremely selective in his, in picking and choosing when he gets his shot off. He's currently 6th in scoring, 14th in assists. He's top 20 in PER, 44% from three. The Cavs should be, if they keep this up, they'll be a top 2 or 3 seed in the East. I mean, they're playing great basketball, and he is very relevant right now. And his cards are still, in the grand scheme of things, very inexpensive compared to some of the 2018, 2019 guys. I think that, they've got a good shot. Obviously, they got to get through the Bucks, but if you want to play the kind of short-term undervalued player game, which I usually talk more safe and long-term, this is a guy I would look at. I would look at his Flawless RPA, because what I like about Flawless as well is none of the RPAs are numbered higher than 25. Flawless is a very select product. There's an out of 25, an out of 20, 15, 10, 5, and so on. And it's a really cool, unique RPA. It's vertical. And I think aesthetically, it's just a really pretty card. It's a high-end brand, and I like what they're doing.
A lot of savvy guys over the last handful of years have banged the drum that Donovan Mitchell is wildly undervalued. And this isn't typically my sector for investing or even collecting. And I don't know if the best time to buy basketball is in basketball season after a hot start from a player and team. But what I do know is I love the idea of gravitating towards the Flawless brand because it's game used, something we've talked about multiple times. You mentioned how well Donovan Mitchell's playing, 10th best player efficiency rating through 9 games. And I think from a long-term perspective, even you look at the makeup of the Cavs, it's, Jared Allen's 24. Garland's 22, LeVert's 28, Mobley's 21, and Donovan Mitchell's 26. These are players that are either in their prime or haven't come close to reaching their ceiling, so there's room for upside as a team. And with the Cavaliers, I don't think this is some flash in the pan where they just started hot from the floor to begin the season. They're actually getting it done on both ends of the floor, right? The Cavs have the second best defensive rating. On offense, they're on the cusp of top 5. So it's this well-balanced team. And I start to think about some of the pieces. To me, the guard play could be a little bit better than the Bucks on paper. And there's one specific player in Evan Mobley, based upon his size and structure, that might not have a difficult time giving Giannis a little run for his money based on the length. So that's what's interesting to me when I think about that matchup one-on-one against the Bucks. Now, there's also a player here, a veteran piece that's contributing off the bench that you might know very well.
My guy, Kevin Love.
What are you hearing there? Is there some intel? Is there some scoop?
He found the fountain of youth. I mean, this guy is playing unbelievable basketball. Shout out to a Lake Oswego, Oregon native, and a great dude in Kevin. Right now he's 14th in the NBA in player efficiency rating.
Yep,
off the bench. I mean, he's averaging 12, 7, and 2, shooting the ball incredible right now. He's shooting 41% from 3. 45% from the field, 82 from free throws. I mean, for a guy that's only playing 20 minutes a game, averaging 12 points at his age, he's been so efficient. He's got that veteran leadership that you always want with a young team like the Cavs have. And I mean, everything's just clicking for them right now, and they're playing great. Bickerstaff's doing an unbelievable job, and I love watching them as a team play basketball.
Yeah, I think that calming influence from a veteran like Kevin Love is huge for that team. And the one thing that we've seen the last handful of years, what he wanted didn't necessarily align with the organization, but now that there is a winner in place, having that veteran presence come off the bench has been fantastic for them as well. Now, one set that I am focusing on a little bit, and again, I like to talk baseball this time of year because I think there's some opportunities. It's the 2002 Topps Chrome baseball set, but specifically within that set, the black refractors serial numbered out of 50, and they're just stunning looking. They have shine. But what I like about this set, for a mainstream Topps Chrome product, it wasn't overly produced. In the early 2000s, I wouldn't say we're quite dealing with that now, but really like March of 2000, it was the peak of the dot-com bubble bursting. And so that economic recession kind of spilled into the cards and collectible hobby, and Topps didn't go wild with this production. Baseball also had a little bit of a black eye after the Sosa McGuire home run chase in 98, and a few years later we found out some substances were being used, and Ken Griffey Jr., right, the biggest player at that time in Ken Griffey Jr., wasn't really in the lineup. He was battling some injuries, so there wasn't a ton of intrigue. If you go to PSA, the entire set is 660 cards. You factor in all the base, the gold and black refractors, PSA is graded less than 1,300 copies, okay? But for this specific black refractor, serial number out of 50, they're just ghosts, right? There's a ton of key players in there. You have the Ichiro and Pujols rookie cups. The Jeter is highly sought after. A PSA 10 Pop 1 just sold for 5 figures. But those 3 cards, Pujols, Ichiro, and Jeter, grand total of 15 have been graded combined. It's also a really condition-sensitive set. So of the 4 Pujols that have been graded, PSA 8's the highest grade. So no mint or gem mint copies. I think long-term, this set will be far more appreciated. It's undervalued in my mind. Obviously, 90s inserts have their own sector of collector, and I think as time evolves, some of those early 2000s cards, like the Topps Chrome, like the game used, are going to be far more appreciated.
Yeah, well, this is what I love about our market. Again, when I say there's something for everybody in here, I really mean it. I had to do research on this set. I thought you were going to talk about the 2001 Topps Chrome set, which is Pujols and Ichiro's rookie, but you corrected me and said, no, we're going to be talking about 2002. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to do some research on that set. I don't know much about it. And I know a little bit about a lot, ranging all the way back to the early 1900s of cards to modern day stuff. So, I mean, there is just a little bit for everybody in this space. You just got to find what you like. And so I had to do a little bit of a deep dive on this set. And you're right, man, it's shocking how few cards have actually been graded of these black refractors. And then the gold refractor variation is pretty neat as well, which are short printed. There's been very few of those graded also. And what I like about this set is there's not a ton of different inserts. With the modern day cards, you get 75 different variations of color waves and this and that. You got the black and you got the gold, and that's it. So it's a really, really neat set. And actually, I was looking at some of the players. I mean, there are some baller players in this. You got Clemens, Jeter, Gwynn, Bonds, Henderson, Biggio, Pudge, Mariano, the crime dog, Fred McGriff. You got Tom Glavine, Old Man Justice. I mean, you got everybody. You have so many Hall of Famers in this set. It's a really cool, unique set. And I've found it neat enough where I bought a few boxes off of eBay to rip.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. I found a couple on eBay, and I bought them. So
I have dibs on a Jeter if you pull it.
Okay, deal. So it is a really cool, underappreciated set. The fact that there hasn't been anything graded higher than an 8 for Pujols. Let's hope I pull a black Pujols in good condition. But no, seriously, this is what I love. I love learning something new that was right there in front of me. I mean, I've looked at 2001 Topps Chrome a billion times and never really paid much attention to 2002. And we talked about on the last pod, second year cards as well, right? Which this falls in the category for Pujols and Ichiro.
Yep.
And it's just, looking at it, it is a very aesthetically pleasing set. And I think it was a good pick this week.
So 2 things. You said Old Man Justice, which means you've watched Moneyball recently.
Of course. Yes, that is one of those movies where if it's on TV, I'm watching it. I can't turn it off.
And the second thing here, and it just goes back to the points that we've made the last few weeks, is that there's something for everyone. And even if you are buying big 5 and 6 figure cards, if there's opportunity, you should take it. And recently, I bought the Ichiro Gold. It was an SGC 9 slab, and I said, what am I missing here? This thing is dead centered. It's a set that has some issues with its centering. I sent it off to our boy Clay Cards, who does grading for PSA. He cracked it.
Shout out Clay.
He cracked it, cleaned it, sent it to PSA, came back a PSA 10 Pop 2. I apologized to the guy who thought he had a Pop 1. But we turned that. Yeah, it was a nice little $400 pickup that is roughly probably about $2,800 now. So there's ways to navigate this market, and right, even if you're buying again those 5-figure cards, nothing wrong with picking up a $100 bill when it hits the ground.
Of course not.
All right. So the segment that we busted some balls about at the top has been the big segment of this show. You got off the schneid last week. I'm hearing the wife is allowing you to sleep in bed again. You're no longer on the couch. She's not disappointed with you. Let's get to magic number.
Pick a number, any number, whatever it may be. We got a number inside, but we want a magic number. All right, this is where we're going to pick a few big cards that enter in an auction over the next couple of days, and we're going to try and guess how much they sell for in advance. Throw out a number. We got one too.
All right, Jesse, you picked 3 interesting cards again. A little bit all over the map. We got a football card, we got a basketball card, and then for the first time, we're going to dive into a little bit of golf. All, I would say, 2 for sure, are GOATs in their respective sports. One potentially trending that way after a monster game on Sunday Night Football, and that's where we'll start here. 2017 National Treasures Patrick Mahomes Rookie Shield Patch. It's a 1-of-1 in BGS Mint 9 condition. It is the Tremendous Treasures variation. I'm going to let you lead on this one. Obviously, Mahomes, a massive evening on Sunday Night Football against the Titans, accumulated over 500 total yards. The only reason the Chiefs won last night, put the team on his back. Where do you see this one going?
All right, before I get into this specific Mahomes card, I do want to preface that the three that I selected today for Magic Number, they all have a little bit of an educational piece to them. So I saw an opportunity to talk about some weird nuanced things in the space and kind of educate the listeners a little bit. So watch out for those as we go through them. But yeah, this Mahomes Shield card is a 1-of-1. It's a rookie. It is not game used. So it is a player worn or one of those not from any event type of patch. And this card, interestingly enough, sold a couple months ago in our premier auction for about $35,000. So the owner of this card decided to let it rip again and see if he could make a profit on it. And, the Chiefs playing as well as they are, sans the interesting game last night, looking like one of the better teams in the league at 6-2, and Mahomes looking like a stud, leading a lot of the quarterback statistical categories that we have right now. I think this card is really interesting. I'm curious to see what it does. I don't think it's going to sell for more than it did last time, though. Based on economics, market conditions, modern cards, everything, I've got this card actually doing about 25.5.
That's really wild. And it is interesting because we mentioned game used versus player worn. And you mentioned this card selling in September for about $34,000, $35,000. It actually sold in July as well for $30,000. And I think because it's player worn, it's not a must-have for some high-end collectors, and that's right. Why you see it sell 3 times inside of 4 months. I am actually pretty damn close to you. I was going to be at 24.8, and as great as Mahomes is playing, and the idea of Tyreek Hill not being quite the factor, his market's down about 33% over the last 3 months. So like you, I do think this sells for a touch lower than last time, but you could have a savvy collector in there think the same things that you thought, because the Chiefs right now are 6-2. The Bills dropped a game. They're 6-2. They have the tiebreaker. But if you really look at the Chiefs' losses this season, should have won on the road at Indianapolis. You had a muffed punt inside the 5-yard line that led to a score. Chris Jones sacked Matt Ryan. Game was over, and they called him for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Shouldn't have lost that game. And then you lose to Buffalo at home. And it was really just one drive at the end of the game that did it in. If you get a stop there, you're a winner. And this team could easily be 8-0. They're getting a little bit healthier in the secondary with Trent McDuffie back. So I'm at 24.8 on this card. I think we both believe it sells for less than last time. Let's see what this goes for. Now, getting to the unquestionable GOATs in their respective sports. We're not talking about LeBron James. We're talking about the true GOAT, Michael Jordan. And with this card is an interesting 1999 SP Authentic Sign of the Times BGS 8.5. It comes with an autograph on it. Now, the autograph's a 9. Mm-hmm. We'll say the auto's fading a little bit. The parts that aren't faded aren't necessarily vibrant. And when I look at this, obviously, 1998 was the first year of Sign of the Times. And I think there's a lot of collectors that if they are gravitating towards a 5-figure Sign of the Times Jordan autograph card, they might just go to that 1998 gold version rather than this one. It did sell in June for $14,400. And looking at Jordan's market, even though he's the GOAT, he's down roughly 15% the last 3 to 6 months. So I will kick us off here with the first guess. I'm going to say 12.2 on this one. I might be a touch high.
Okay. Well, we're still pretty close, but I'm glad you went first, Mr. 90s insert guy. But the educational piece on this card is the importance that autographs have. There's if this was a 10 auto, it sells for in the 20 range. It's that important. When you get a little bit of a faded auto, it grades a 9. I mean, it can mean the difference in double the value depending on the asset that you're talking about. So make sure when you're buying a card that you're looking at the autograph. And some of these cards are graded PSA 10s or 9s, and PSA doesn't give an autograph grade on every card. So you have to be, educated and be able to look at that autograph and see if it really should be a 9 or a 10. That could affect the value of the asset, and we'll get into that a little bit more on the Tiger card. But I agree with you. I think his market's down a little bit. I think it's just kind of the market as a whole for some of these 90s inserts. They went gangbusters the last 2 years. So I've got this at $12,790.
Trading cards and memorabilia have seen incredible growth as an alternative investment. The company leading the growth? PWCC Marketplace. PWCC Marketplace runs the largest weekly auction of authenticated sports cards, Pokemon cards, comic books, video games, and memorabilia in the world. PWCC Marketplace also has more than 65,000 items listed in their fixed price marketplace that you can make an offer on right now. Head over to pwccmarketplace.com and see why they're the best option for buying and selling trading cards, memorabilia, and all of your collectibles.
Okay, going above me. I actually thought you were going to go below. Interesting.
I'll take the over.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think it might fall in between us. Let's see. But that was really interesting. I think the key here is we're not going to be off by 300% like we were on the basketball card last week.
That was an anomaly for sure.
Oh, my God. I swear to you, I spoke to some of those guys, and they're like, this could go for like $4,000. And I woke up this morning, I said, let me check how we did last week. I was so confident putting in that price on the PWCC Marketplace website, and I saw 31. I almost fainted. I was like, holy crap. Good for that guy.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly.
The next card you've given us, a player near and dear to your heart. It's the 2001 Upper Deck Players Inc. Tiger Woods Rookie Auto in a PSA 10. It's a pop 68, meaning there's 68 copies that have been assessed a perfect 10. It's a horizontal card, not an action photo. And you mentioned the importance of the autographs on these cards. There's a little bubbling on this one. You lead the way with this set because I know it's important being 2001 Upper Deck for golf.
Yeah, I think that Tiger Woods in general, I don't care what card you're talking about, is undervalued. I don't know if there has been, for the stretch of time for about 10 years in golf, I don't know if you can compare that to another sport for a player that's been more dominant. I mean, the guy was number one in the world for over 500 weeks. I mean, it's insane how long this guy was the best player in golf, and it wasn't even close. I mean, he won over 24% of the tournaments that he entered. There's guys like Russell Henley just won this weekend. It was his 4th win on tour. And if you get 4 wins on tour, you're approaching Hall of Fame status. I mean, we're talking about a guy that has the most wins ever. He, the only reason he hasn't won 18 majors like Jack is because of injury. I mean, if Tiger was healthy his whole career, I don't even want to know the separation between him and Jack. It'd be kind of wild. But this card is a 2001 Upper Deck Players Inc. It is a on-card auto. But yeah, the educational piece on this one, again, is the autograph and the bubbling on it. So if you look at the autograph closely, you can see a little bit of bubbling. And look, there's some arbitrage plays and some money plays in this space where this card is just graded a PSA 10, and it's based on card condition only, not the auto grade. And you can have a card reviewed for an auto grade, and it changes the population. So this card is a pop 68 for just a PSA 10, and it's only a pop 6 for a dual PSA 10, which means they graded the auto a 10 and the card a 10. So you can find cards out there where the dual PSA 10, it could be a high pop in a PSA 10 auto and a super low pop in a dual 10. And you can find cards that go to auction, pay a little bit of a premium for the great autograph, get them dual authenticated, and there could be a little bit of money to be made there. But I love this card. I love Tiger Woods. I'm a huge golf junkie. There's nothing greater for me than watching that guy play a golf tournament. Now, considering everything and the autograph, I've got this card going for about $8,150. And just keep in mind that a dual PSA 10 sold about 3 months ago for $13K.
Yep.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how important the auto grade is on these cards.
Yes. And to your point, that is a way that you can make a little bit more money with these cards, especially the way PSA is grading autographs right now, but it's just a way to enhance the rarity. And for me, I know some people don't think this way. I do believe the evolution of the market is starting to trend this way, where people are becoming a little bit more sophisticated. When you have an autograph card, autographs matter. To some people, they don't. I will say this, we're going to have to navigate this one a little bit differently. I was in that 8 to 8,500 range just for the sake of this. I'm going to be wrong here. I'm going to come in below you, right? I was in the 84 range, but I'm going to come in below you. I'm going to say 7,900. I know there's some comp places out there that assess this, that believe it's a 5-figure card. I just think with the bubbling in the auto, with the current market conditions, with Tiger Woods not being flashy in front of your face, I'm going to come in a touch below you at 7,900. But ultimately, I do think you're going to win this.
Look, over under is $8,000 apparently.
Yes.
So we'll see.
We're in the
happens.
ballpark, and we're not going to be off by 300% on this one. I promise you. That's the one
that I can guarantee.
Okay, from a unicorn on the golf course to a ghost on the basketball floor.
Damn, that's a ghost. We're going to highlight a card that hasn't sold in more than a year right now, or is serial numbered to less than 100 copies produced. We're going to talk about why this card is significant, maybe in terms of hobbies or language or just the overall rarity of it all, and why it's considered a ghost.
Jesse, I'm going to put this one on a T for you because I know it's near and dear to your heart. You're familiar with this card. I believe you assisted somewhat in the initial sale of that. I'm going to let you talk about the 2018 National Treasures Luka Doncic rookie NBA logo man patch auto. It is a 1/1 in a BGS Mint 9. It is far and away Luka Doncic's very best card. It sold privately a couple years ago for $4.6 million. You would know the inner workings of that, if there were other cards involved, if it was just this one. So I'm going to let you discuss this card.
Yeah, I actually was not involved in the sale of this one at all. No, I wasn't. No worries. But I'm aware of it. Obviously, the card's been in our vault for a long time, and the purchase price was $4.6 million. It's Luka's best card, and it's pronounced Luka Doncic, but you can sit here and butcher it all you want.
Doncic? What?
Doncic.
All I know is he's probably 32 years old. And,
a little birth certificate issue. Look, I've talked about this card before specifically. I've talked about Luka a lot on the pod. I'm enamored with the guy and impressed by the quality of play he has for a slow white guy. That's just what it is.
And you're a Bird hater because you're a Lakers fan. How did this happen?
Well, now I love Bird just like Magic loves Bird now. So I appreciate the trash talking, that all these stories you hear about Larry Bird. I hope we hear some of that from Luka down the road. But this card specifically, it's just a monster card. It's the first time it's ever been available at a public auction block, and it's sitting right now at 2.16 million. So it's already creeped up quite a bit. But I'm really excited to see on the 17th when this closes where it ends up. He's basically averaging a triple-double this year. He's the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. Is he going to win a championship? Who knows? But this is one of those cards where if you do believe in Luka and you want to own his best asset, this is likely going to be your only opportunity to do so. I don't believe whoever wins this card is going to put it up for sale for a handful of years, and so this is your chance. It is your one time to get this card at an open auction block. You don't have to overpay for it privately. You can win it in a free market, and here you go. Have at it.
It's a great looking card, and Doncic has been on absolute fire. 36, 9, and 9. He's number one in player efficiency, and no one wants to hear anything about other teams, about other guys' fantasy teams, rather. Okay, and I had the first pick. I went with the other white guy in the Western Conference. from the Denver Nuggets, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for that. That I didn't.
It's been a little slow season for the Joker here.
Yes, a little slow. Great card. Let's gravitate to a very interesting segment that we do every week, where we compare two wildly different cards.
So we doing this or are we doing that? You tell me and we'll tell you. We're going to compare two cards right now with similar value that are completely different. Let me give you an example. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you have a vintage Mickey Mantle baseball card worth $30,000. But you also have a modern day Joe Burrow rookie card worth $30,000. Which one would you rather have and why? You tell us. We're going to tell you right now.
You set us up good this week. I mean, these are polar opposites, and it was a good transition because Luka is involved in this segment as well, of this or that. We've talked about one of the sets a couple times throughout prior episodes, and the first card we're going to look at, it's the 1909 T206 Ty Cobb Red Portrait PSA 4. And when we talk about this T206 set, I think we've talked about it maybe 2 or 3 times about the importance of this set. And I think if you go again on Google and do some research and look into some of these tobacco cards, you're going to fall in love with this set. The history, the pageantry, I think in terms of the pantheon of sets, the T206 is going to outlast the other card that we're comparing here. And just for full disclosure, I own this card in the greenback variation, so I'm a little partial to this one. But we will be comparing this with the 2018 Panini Contenders Optic Blue Rookie Autograph to 99 copies of Luka Doncic in a PSA 10, of which there are only 3 copies.
I think I'm going to put Luka in every single podcast so you can keep butchering his last name. I think that's going to be the plan.
Doncic, is that it?
Luka Doncic, yeah. Okay,
it's not going to happen. I'm just going to.
It's not going to happen. You're going to keep butchering it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Ty Cobb T206 in a PSA 4. This is the red portrait variation. It is a gorgeous card. This is actually a PWCC A. So on an eye appeal perspective, we think it's very pretty, in the top 30% of all copies we've seen in the respective grade. It's got beautiful centering. This card sold for $13,200 last week. I mean, the card's over 100 years old. You got an AL MVP, Triple Crown winner in 1909, 12-time batting champion. He actually has a career batting average of .366, which is absolutely wild. But, these vintage cards like this, I think the reason the T206 set is so popular is the different number of variations that you can get within the set. You mentioned that you own the green variation of this card. Well, there's also 2 batting variations. There's a bat on shoulder and a bat off shoulder. On top of those 4 different variations of Ty Cobb, there are different backs associated with a lot of these. You can have a Piedmont back, a Sweet Cat back, a drum back. I mean, there's literally about a dozen different backs on the card that you can go after. So from a set collecting perspective, it's been an incredibly popular set because you want to get in, you want to own a Ty Cobb bat off shoulder, you can get in for in the hundreds to the low thousands. I mean, these are the kind of cards, because there's so much quantity of them, they were inserted in packs of cigarettes, and cigarettes were very popular in the early 1900s. So there's a lot of quantity of these cards, and they're accessible and affordable for almost everybody in every grade. And there's so many Hall of Famers in this set that you can try to collect. It's just a great card and an incredibly popular, important set for our market. Going up against the Panini Contenders Optic Blue Luka out of 99, PSA 10. This card is only a pop 3, so it's very low population. This card sold for $14,400 about a week ago, so it's actually $1,200 more expensive than the Ty Cobb. But the card has sold as high as $24K in a Beckett 9.5 just about a year ago. It's a really tough card, and that's considering, for those that don't know out there, is PSA 10s typically sell for around 1.5 to 2x what a Beckett 9.5 does. We've talked about how popular Luka is right now, how well he's playing. So I think this is a case, card 1 and card 2. It's a case of short term versus long term. Which way are you going? And normally I would select the Ty Cobb, but they're fairly accessible and available and I think this is a good money grab here going with Luka. So I'm actually going to go with the Luka PSA 10.
I figured you would, based upon how you set this up, and I appreciate you rubbing some dirt in the wound, because the Ty Cobb that we're discussing here is a card that you won in Magic Number about a week or two ago. I usually don't lose the vintage card battles, but I did here. Now, I've had the opportunity to own both. I obviously am a little bit more of a long-term collector, and that's just what I like, and that's basically the theme of all of these shows: collect what you like. And so I am gravitating towards the Ty Cobb red portrait. I do understand, to your point, though, I think if we're looking for a little bit more of a boom play, you would gravitate towards the Luka here. If you're a singles hitter who's not entrenched in the space, or a flipper every single day of the week, that would be the play. But certainly Luka's has the ability to buy now. If they do make a little bit of a run, you're going to be able to dump it at the profit margin. And we've seen, to your point, that this card has sold for about 2x what it currently is going for. So there is some room there, not just with this team making a little bit of a run in the playoffs potentially, but if there's a little bit of a market surge in terms of sport and player, there is not a larger combination in the card collectible space modern day, I don't believe.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good comparison. Yeah, I like tying in a card that we've already talked about before after it closes, and yeah, a little salt in the wound there. I actually won one for a change. So, but no, I'm going to take the short-term play here. I think that it's a potential flip on this card to sell kind of closer to the playoff time, assuming all keeps going well with the Mavs and Luka's play. But both great pieces, and you really can't go wrong with either of them.
Going to agree to disagree. And this will close out episode 5. This has been a great start, and I think we will continue pushing forward. We have about 30 of these episodes that we will continue discussing some of the biggest cards, the most iconic players in the space. This was CardBoard Chat, episode 5.
Make sure you follow Payne on Twitter at Payne Insider. Subscribe to Bet the Board and get notified when new episodes of CardBoard Chat air on Tuesdays. And be sure to stop by pwccmarketplace.com for all your collecting needs.